Hi guys, I'm going to read the next chapter of Doll People for you today, okay? Sit down. This is chapter 15, and it's called Into the Attic. That night, Papa didn't wait as long as usual before he announced, "The coast is clear." The moment the words were out of his mouth, the dolls ran to where he lay in the parlor. Annabelle had been about to reach for her journal, but she joined the family instead. "Now how do you feel?" was the first thing Mama said to Papa. "Even better," he replied. "I think the glue is dry." Papa sat up. Uncle Doll sat next to him. He and Papa smiled at each other. "We're glad to have you back with us," said Papa. "You're part of the family. You belong here." "Thank you. Yes, I know," said Uncle Doll, looking more pleased than uncomfortable. "Now the whole family is together," said Annabelle, "except for, well, you know." "Let's not talk about that tonight," said Bobby, glancing at the adults. There's the picture of Uncle and Papa Doll. Annabelle knew he didn't want any fighting on Papa's first night home again, and neither did Annabelle, but she did want to find Auntie Sarah. So a few minutes later, she returned to the nursery. She opened Auntie Sarah's journal and flipped to the last page, on which there was writing. She gasped. A new paragraph had been added. It read, "Made another trip to the attic this morning. Wish humans would leave the door to the attic stairs open more often, but they usually close it. It's just next to Catherine's bedroom. Perhaps a drought comes in when the door is open." Annabelle dropped the journal. She didn't even finish reading the entry. She now knew two things. One, the way to the attic was up a staircase next to a bedroom, which was probably the room in which Kate's parents now slept. Two, someone knew that Annabelle had found the journal, was writing in it, wanted Annabelle to look for Auntie Sarah in the attic, and was telling her the way to the attic. Annabelle clattered down the staircase, not even bothering to be quiet. "I have to find Tiffany," she cried as she skidded into the parlor. "It's an emergency. I'll be back later." And she began scrambling down the stool without waiting for her parents or Nanny or Uncle Doll to answer her. She had flown across Kate's room and was rounding the corner in the hallway when she crashed into another moving object. "Oh no, please don't let me be in doll state again," thought Annabelle. And then she saw that she had run into Tiffany. The girls straightened up quickly and flattened themselves against the wall. "You won't guess what I found," exclaimed Annabelle, gasping a little just as Tiffany whispered, "It's time for our next mission." "What?" they both said. "Then, you go first," said Tiffany. "Okay, but not here in the hall." Annabelle pulled Tiffany back into Kate's room and they scurried under the dresser. Then Annabelle told her what she had read in the journal. "The door next to the Palmer's bedroom?" asked Tiffany. "Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go. It's time for our next mission anyways. That's what I was coming to tell you." "Don't we need supplies or something?" asked Annabelle. "This is our biggest mission yet." "We'll just explore on this one," replied Tiffany. "If we need supplies, we'll come back and get them. Let's see if we can get upstairs." Okay, Annabelle led the way along the hall to Kate's parents' room. "Here's their door," she said. It was partway open. Annabelle peeked inside. The room was dimly lit by the moonlight shining through the window. Annabelle could hear the soft sounds of breathing, a clock ticking, blankets rustling. Tiffany pulled her away a few steps farther down the hall, and they were standing by another door. "Darn, it's closed," Tiffany whispered loudly. "I don't think I've ever seen it open," said Annabelle. "Well, not in a long time anyway. I thought it was a closet door. The Palmers don't like the captain to go in closets, so they keep the closet door closed." "They probably don't want him to go in the attic either," said Tiffany. The girls stared at the enormous closed door. Then they looked at each other, and then Annabelle reached out and stuck her hand in the crack under the door. She gripped the door and pulled, and the door swung open a few inches. "Hey!" cried Tiffany. The latch hadn't caught. "I just had a feeling," said Annabelle. "Well, come on," said Tiffany. Annabelle and Tiffany slithered behind the partly open door. The darkness on the other side was much darker than the darkness in the hallway. They could barely see. "This is scary," Annabelle whispered. "I know, but there's nothing we can do about it. Maybe there'll be moonlight in the attic." Annabelle let out a small sigh. Then she and Tiffany began feeling their way up the staircase. "It isn't carpeted," said Annabelle. "This is harder than going up the living room stairs." "Lots harder," Tiffany agreed as her hand slipped and she toppled back on Annabelle. But the girls kept going. Annabelle said over and over inside her head, "Here we come, Auntie Sarah. Here we come, Auntie Sarah. We're coming, we're coming, we're coming." She set it to a marching tune, hummed it to herself as she and Tiffany scaled step after step. Annabelle felt they had climbed quite a long way when she realized she could see her hands in front of her. "Look, Tiffany," she said. "It's lighter here. I think we're almost at the top step." Sure enough, the girls climbed one more step and Annabelle realized she could see a bit again. And that ahead of her now stretched a long expanse of rough wooden floor. "Tiffany," she said, "I think we're in the attic." Tiffany grinned. Then she said, "It's so light in here. It's almost as if it were daytime." Okay, so here's a picture. You can see Annabelle and Tiffany poking around the corner there. This is the door, and then here are the stairs to the attic. See how dark it is in the stairwell? "The light's shining through that window," said Annabelle, pointing. The girls looked ahead of them at a large window. Moonlight poured in. "It must be a full moon tonight," said Tiffany. Annabelle turned her attention to the rest of the attic. "It's kind of messy," she said. "I think attics are supposed to be messy," said Tiffany. "But boxes, trunks, junk, stuff? How are we going to look for Auntie Sarah?" "Well, just start," said Tiffany practically. "We don't have much time." "We'll call as we look," said Annabelle. Annabelle and Tiffany waded through dust bunnies. They peered around corners of curtains. They crawled under discarded furniture. "Auntie Sarah!" Annabelle called softly. "Hello! Is anybody up here?" called Tiffany. They paused frequently to listen, but heard nothing except little twitterings and chirpings, and sometimes the wind. Finally, Tiffany said, "Annabelle, I think we better go back. It's getting late." "No, I don't want to leave. I think she's here. I can feel her." "We'll come back tomorrow night," Annabelle sighed. "All right." But at noon the next day, the sun began to fade, and by nightfall, rain lashed the windows. Tiffany showed up just moments after Kate had gone to bed and said sadly, "It's too dark to search the attic tonight, Annabelle. No moonlight." "I know. I thought about that all afternoon." Okay, here are the girls in the attic, calling around. "We'll try tomorrow night if we can." But the rain stayed. It stayed for days. And you know what? Oops. Sorry, guys. It's windy. Make sure we're still going here. And you know what? Annabelle said to Tiffany one dark night. "What? By the time the rain stops, we probably won't have any moonlight to search by. It'll be just a sliver of a moon." "I wish we had a flashlight," said Tiffany. "I mean a big human flashlight." "I know, but I know, we wouldn't be able to carry it. I was just wishing." In the end, Annabelle and Tiffany had to wait days and days and days before they could search for Auntie Sarah again. They had to wait until the next night with no clouds and almost full moon. "I hope the attic door is still open," said Annabelle on that night as they hurried down the hallway. They didn't bother to listen for the captain, who truly had been banished to the first floor. The dolls hadn't seen him at nighttime in weeks. The door was open. Annabelle and Tiffany climbed the attic stairs as fast as they could and stood in the moonlight. "Let's start at the other end of the room this time," said Tiffany. So they did. Once again, they waded through dust bunnies and peeked around corners of curtains. Annabelle even climbed a pile of musty old clothes, stood atop it, and called, "Auntie Sarah, Auntie Sarah, it's me, Annabelle, where are you?" She listened intently for an answer, but heard nothing. Okay, here are the girls. You can see them. There's Annabelle, there's Tiffany, and they're searching all around all these boxes in the attic. Several hours later, Annabelle heard a clock chiming very faintly from somewhere downstairs. "Tiffany," she exclaimed, "was that 4 chimes?" "Yes," replied Tiffany. "Uh-oh, we have to leave right now." The trip down the attic stairs seemed to take forever since Annabelle and Tiffany had to creep down them very slowly. Without carpeting, their movements made tiny clicks and thumps and clatters, but they managed to return to their homes before the Palmers awoke. The members of SELP searched the attic again the next night without any luck. Annabelle began to fear that Auntie Sarah would not be found soon. "Oh, I just can't bear the thought of waiting for the next full moon," she said to Tiffany. "Let's try tomorrow night anyway. Maybe there'll be enough light to see by." On the third night of the search, the light had faded, but Tiffany and Annabelle were familiar with the attic and poked through its hiding places anyways. "How much time do we have?" Tiffany asked Annabelle. "I don't know." Annabelle was disentangling her foot from a bit of rag that was caught under the corner of an enormous steamer trunk. "Look at all the stickers on that trunk," said Tiffany. "Someone sure traveled a lot. I bet it was William." "Hey!" cried Annabelle. "Hey, hey, hey!" She didn't bother to keep her voice down. "Shh!" said Tiffany. Annabelle ignored her. "Hey!" she said again. "What is it?" "This!" Annabelle exclaimed, poking at the rag she had tripped over. Tiffany bent down to examine it. "Yeah? It's..." Annabelle's voice caught. I'm pretty sure it's Auntie Sarah's dress." Annabelle was standing at a corner of the trunk. With her shoe, she poked at the bit of faded blue fabric. Then she peeked around the corner, and there, between the trunk and the attic wall, was the skirt of her dress. Trapped neatly under the trunk was Auntie Sarah. Annabelle gasped. Speechless, she grabbed Tiffany and pulled to her discovery. Tiffany stared in horror. Is that your aunt? She whispered. I think so. The girl stared. Auntie Sarah was covered in dust. Her left hand was chipped. Old cobwebs stretched between her trunk and her dress. Her eyes stared dully ahead. Auntie Sarah? Annabelle said tentatively. She looked into the expressionless eyes. Auntie Sarah, it's me. It's Annabelle. Auntie Sarah didn't move. Are you sure it's your aunt? Asked Tiffany. Maybe it's some other doll. I don't think she's alive. No, it's Auntie Sarah, replied Annabelle, a sinking feeling in her stomach. But I think she's in permanent doll state. Tiffany lowered her eyes. Oh, I'm sorry. Annabelle poked at Auntie Sarah's dress, her chipped hand, the cobwebs. We might as well leave, she said. Okay, there's the big trunk, and you can see Auntie Sarah's dress was caught underneath it. And there's Annabelle and Tiffany trying to talk to her. She's not answering. Then she jumped as a loud voice exclaimed, Are you crazy? After all this time? Annabelle stumbled backwards against Tiffany. The doll on the attic floor had spoken. Okay. So for today, I want you guys to write a journal about that chapter, and I want you to write about what do you think happened to Auntie Sarah, okay? So remember, when we have a question, I don't want to see this what word. So you're not going to write, what do you think happened to Auntie Sarah? You might start it with, I think Auntie Sarah, and then finish that sentence, okay? Make sure you guys are reading and writing and practicing your math facts. And make sure you go outside today because it's nice and sunny. Enjoy some sunshine, play outside. We miss you all so much, and I will see you soon, okay?